So Tricia, you define Calliope Collective as actively engaged in creative placemaking in Kingston. And as part of this work, you collaborate frequently with local artists, artists who are based in Kingston or a little further out. And we can discuss what local means. But on the other hand, you've also taken part in international residencies to develop your own practice and networks. And you collaborate with international artists. So what we'd like to know is, how do you navigate this tension between locally rooted and the global perspective? And when and how should artists travel and experience different contexts? And how can festivals support this?
Is there tension? I don't know about that. Yeah, I suppose, I don't know if that's the word I would use, but I suppose I try to stay grounded. I believe that if I can approach what I'm doing with integrity, if what I'm doing feels genuine, it feels purposeful, beneficial to even just a small pocket of people in my community, it's dispelling, I guess, whatever that tension is. I mean, it's not a competition, but a lot of structures within the sector are set up for it to feel that way. I mean, we're competing for grants and we're competing for residencies and places and larger festivals and whatnot. So yeah, I hope that answers your question regarding that. I think with Calliope, we're providing a platform for underrepresented arts in underutilized spaces. So that's where the creative placemaking comes in. And this is really done so that we can try to broaden the scope of arts and culture in our community. So bringing in artists from outside the community makes sense. But we want to make sure that they're working together with local artists and with community if possible. So I suppose it's accessibility and bringing artists from outside of the community or local, as you said. It makes sense because being in Kingston, it's in the middle of this triangle of cities. You have Ottawa and Montreal and Toronto, and then we're in the middle. So often you see people needing to travel to one of the bigger cities to have exposure or collaborative opportunities with artists who are working in a larger scale or a larger concept. So while they might not be co-creating a piece, they'll still have that exposure to it and still have that inspiration that can come from seeing that. And when we look at a Calliope presentation, a lot of the works will be presented together. So when artists come in to the project, whether they're local or from outside of the area, all the artists may not be working together per se to create this whole piece, but it's taking each piece of it and then weaving them together. So if they're not working side by side, their works are still complementing each other. And then there's also, I mean, networking opportunities galore, which is always such a perk for going into another space or having people come from another area. It's this different perspective that we're able to gain, international or even just folks from a different province or town who are working together to further expand the arts. So we shouldn't have to fight, to prove that the arts have value. The quality of life is better in creative communities for residents, for businesses, artists. I mean, there's so many studies. We all have our own lived experience as proof of this. So yeah, I don't know that we should look at it as being tense, but really trying to change that narrative so that it is truly collaborative, not competitive. And even though we're not, having multiple hands on the same element of something, it's working together to create this cohesive vision. So I think I'm trying to think of an example because I was so blessed to be able to travel to the Netherlands and be in Den Bosch to work on the Bosch Parade, which is a series of floating art, but it's a parade down the Donau River in this medieval city. And one of the artists who were there, so many fantastic artists, but one in particular who was a visiting artist from Russia was coming in. So there was the language barrier. There was a large scale piece of art that really needed assistance from the community and from other local performers to really bring the visual component of that work to life. And being able to witness how Elena Kogan was the artist's name, to see how she worked with her team to create the piece, how she could include community to be involved in the building of her installation to a certain point, and then she kicked everybody else out because, you know, artistic discretion and having certain techniques that she uses, wanting to keep those private, which I respect. But she found a way to connect with the community to create that piece, and then connect with other performers, and a choir was kind of singing alongside of this grand visual art installation of these wings. And it was one of the most stunning pieces I've ever seen. But as a creator and a producer, being, you know, witness to how that all unfolded and how the Bosch Parade was able to facilitate the connection for her in the community, to make sure that she had the hands that she needed, to make sure that she was in contact with other creators so that they could collectively create this presentation, which was part of such a larger presentation at the end. So yeah, it's shocking to me how we can all just be kind of thrown in. And when you show up in an area, depending on the culture of that community is, you know, come and create, and we'll give you space and you can do this. But a lot of artists are on their own. So I think that my goal and my hope for Calliope is that if we do have an artist coming in to create for Hydra, that we're going to be able to really connect them with what and who they need to really create something as close to their vision as possible, and to help each other out, to learn from one another, and to take time to learn a little bit about how the person, the artist arriving is communicating based on the culture they're coming from, and then being very clear on our expectations in both ways. So I think that when it comes down to it, it's really taking time to set that foundation for communication when we're hosting others or when we're visiting with others.
I think you've echoed it before in earlier conversations, but you know, I think that that element of communication is so important, to be very clear about, what is bringing the people together and why we're doing it this way, regardless of locale. And I really love ending on that, reflective note. So my deep thanks to you, Tricia, for speaking with Fanny and myself today, because, it's been great to be able to come back together after the Flex program that ran from January to May 2022. Hard to believe it's that long ago now, where, we talked a lot during all of our sessions with other festival professionals about the importance of taking the time to have these conversations, and to make sure that all of these facets are considered. So thank you, Tricia, for sharing this coffee break with us to reflect on how festivals can collaborate better with artists. And we have other coffee break interviews and clips for you to enjoy. So please subscribe to WorkInCulture's newsletter to get updates on this series and all of the other professional development programs we're offering to arts professionals in Ontario and beyond. Thank you, everyone.